Welcome to the Crunch Time YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be talking about how the Clippers were able to beat the Utah Jazz yesterday and how Paul George really stepped up. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. The Clippers played the Utah Jazz yesterday in a very surprising game where they were able to come out on top, and a game where many doubted if they could even stay close throughout the end of the game. They lost Kawhi Leonard. He had a right knee injury he sustained at the end of Game 4. And there are still fears it could be an ACL tear. And if that's the case, that is really unfortunate. It was a very unnecessary play, just the way Joe Ingles pushed him while he was running. And it could have been very well prevented. It was like a 15-point game. The Jazz were making a run, but there were just other ways that Leonard did not need to be on the court at that time, especially with his injury concerns, as he basically does not play back-to-backs at all during the regular season. So, not getting too much into that, the Clippers lost their best player, and he really was scoring for them, playing great defense, and we saw just missing his defensive presence. Bogdanovich dropped like 6 3-pointers in a quarter against the Clippers. They had 10 for 17 or something like that threes just to Jazz in the first quarter, and you cannot be allowing that many 3-pointers in a quarter. There were 17 from 30 actually in the first half, and that is a very good shooting mark. That's over 50%. So the Jazz were able to do very well shooting, but so were the Clippers. Almost everyone on the team shot very well. Paul George had 37 points. Marcus Morris had 24. Reggie Jackson got over 20. And this small ball lineup for the Clippers is actually really impressive, even without their best player, Kawhi Leonard. Marcus Morris really is just stepping up, and he was hitting a lot of difficult shots today, and shots you normally do not want to see Marcus Morris taking. But with the loss of Kawhi Leonard, you need a Marcus Morris to hit those shots. He is definitely probably not worth that $64 million contract. They just had to overpay him just to keep him. But he is definitely performing very well in this playoffs. Luke Kennard is someone who got very little regular season time, but he's still doing decent for someone who barely touched the floor. Patrick Beverley got a few steals, and some people do not like him and think he's pretty overrated defensively. But what he's able to do sometimes just to frustrate the opponent is very impressive. And he created a few opportunities for the Clippers that they probably would not have got if, say, Rajon Rondo was on the court. Rondo was actually someone who I personally expected to have a larger role for the Clippers, just looking at what he was able to do for the Lakers last year, but it's just not meant to be, as the Lakers just needed a guard more than the Clippers do. The Clippers are kind of more guard-heavy in general, just looking at Pat Bev, Reggie Jackson, Paul George is technically shooting guard, Luke Kennard. So they have a few people there, and especially when you already are playing no center most of the time, you don't want to have too many guards in there. And he is not the best shooter, and that's kind of what they are aiming for most of the time, is to have a shooter on the court. So having Rajon Rondo is not the best for them. But the main guy here, Paul George, he has just proved to everyone he still can be the main guy on a team, even if he probably is never going to get that chance again, just with the Clippers, unless Paul George or Kawhi Leonard leaves, which I don't find that likely, just because he could potentially have a very dangerous knee injury, and with someone who has this history of getting hurt, there are going to be probably few teams that don't want to offer him. But Kawhi Leonard, he is someone who has moved around the league a lot. Well, he has 3 teams in his career. And you don't want superstars, you don't want to be on too many different teams. So it would be probably best for him to stay in LA. And he went to LA because he wanted to be in LA. So it wouldn't make sense for him to move again. So there's my thoughts on PG. Never going to really be a number one option again. But he proved like he is still playoff P. And he can lead a team, step up into big moments, which many doubted he could do. He was able to do it. Will they be able to play like this in game 6 and 7 if 7 happens? Is still in the air. Mike Conley might be back. Who knows what's going to happen with Kawhi Leonard? I doubt Leonard is back for game 6 or 7, just looking at how severe his injury could be. But Mike Conley, he probably will be back for if a game 7 does happen. So Clippers really want to try to win at home in game 6, because with Utah fans in game 7 would just be very loud, and having that home court advantage game 6 is a game you want to win. So those are my thoughts on this. Let me know if you think the Clippers can win game 6 or game 7. Thanks for watching and have a great day.